Hey guys, thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to be talking about Litecoin and how you can manage your risk in Litecoin. We have done this previously with Ethereum and Bitcoin, so if you're interested in those coins, then check those videos out. And if you guys like this content, then please subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on and like the video. And if you want to discuss these ideas and charts further, then check out the Telegram and Discord channels in the descriptions below. So what do we have here basically? If you're not familiar with this chart that I've made, it's the price of Litecoin on a logarithmic scale, and then a risk color-coded dimension, which is an equation that I've developed, and it essentially is a measure of the risk associated with buying and selling Litecoin at that time. So the risk indicator goes from 0 to 1. And dark blue is 0, which is historically a great time to buy Litecoin. And the dark red is 1, which is historically a great time to sell Litecoin. So one of the interesting things with Litecoin is that it does tend to repeat itself in a sense. You can see that we had this, this pretty drastic downtrend in the price, which also corresponded to a very low risk level. And then moving into the halving, so the red dashed lines are the halvings. Moving into the halving, prior to the halving, I should say, the price increased and then decreased into the halving. So it corrected into the halving. And then following the halving, the price was lower than the peak directly before the halving, but it was higher than the low from before the halving. So you can see it still was able to maintain a price appreciation from before the halving. And then it more or less stayed constant for the next year and a half before really taking off. So you can see again we had this downtrend. We entered an uptrend right before the halving, and then we corrected into the halving just like we did over here. And unlike this first case, we've decreased even further. However, you should note that this price appreciation here is not identical to this one, and this one actually took place over a much longer period of time. The second one, I should say, took place over a longer period of time than the price appreciation prior to the first halving. So that is something to take into consideration. And recently, we've seen the risk come up a little bit and the price come up a little bit. Just as Litecoin is trying to find its true valuation, which maybe it'll stay at for the next year or more. And I've discussed this in a previous video with Litecoin that I kind of expected it to, go through this correction, and at some point we would expect it to stabilize and potentially stay that way until Bitcoin reaches its previous all-time high of $20,000. And then expect, some type of bigger move. Now, I should say this is not financial advice. This is just how I manage my own portfolio. So, with that said, let us note that about half a year before both halvings was historically a great time to buy Litecoin. And then, following the halving, once the price of Litecoin stabilized, was also a decent accumulation period. So it's possible that we're beginning to enter this accumulation period that could last us all of 2020 at the very least. Now, obviously it might not, but I mean, if we were to mimic what has happened in the past, then at the very least, Litecoin, the price of Litecoin would pretty much stay where it is, plus or minus $20 or $30. But I mean, if we were to do anything like we did in 2016, then it's not gonna be going off to say several $100s in 2020. So just keep that in mind. Now, if we take the color out and just show the risk as a secondary y-axis, so the price is this this white line, and it corresponds to this primary y-axis over here, and then the light blue line corresponds to the secondary y-axis, which is risk. And you can see that both before the halving of 2015 and then before the halving in 2019, or I guess the best time to get in was around the very end of 2018. But these historically were the best times to get in, and then right before the halving, both times was a good time to take some profits. Now, some people, part of the hard part with taking profits is it's a lot of people think, well, I don't want to take profits because what if it keeps going up? And I have covered this extensively in the last two videos I made on Bitcoin and Ethereum, but just in case you're only interested in Litecoin and for completeness, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what I spoke about in those videos. So one thing you could do is you could take this risk indicator and, maybe you're a person that just puts in the same amount every single month or every single week into Litecoin. Let's say you're just putting in $500. Then what you could do is only put in the money when the risk is between levels that you are okay buying at. So if your risk tolerance is say between 0 and 0.5 and you're okay buying in that region, then maybe you continue to put $500 in. And then once it pops above this region, then potentially you start to take profits. And in Litecoin, by keeping this say at 0 to 0.5, it would have allowed you in both 2015 and 2019 to take profits prior to the halving. Now, you could even move your sell region further down and potentially take profits sooner, but this is more or less just a moderate investment strategy in a sense where you're basically buying anytime the risk is below 0.5 and you start to sell anytime it goes above 0.5. Now that doesn't mean you sell everything, and we'll get to that in a minute. Another way you could do this, as I've mentioned before, is dynamic dollar cost averaging, where when the risk is say between 0.4 and 0.5, maybe you're buying, but you're buying smaller amounts or you're putting in less money. And then if say the risk gets down to say 0.1 to 0.2 or even below 0.1, maybe you're putting in a higher multiple of whatever this was. That way you get your dollar cost average, your average buy-in as low as possible. And to really weight that in a way that will give you the most bang for your buck in the end. So another way is to dynamically dollar cost average, and one way you could do this is if your monthly budget is say $500 and the risk is between say 0.4 and 0.5, then one method is maybe only put $200 that month and then bank the other 300, and then if the next time you invest it's between this region, then you say put in 400 of the 500 and now you've banked an extra $400 between these 2 months. And then if we get over here, then you can take that extra 100 from the 400 you've banked and add it to your monthly $500, put in $600. So it does take a lot of patience, but I have been doing it, so I know it is possible. It does take some level of discipline to do that. And then I think what's even harder is to start selling it at various times. So one way you could do this is to suppose you accumulate say 150 Litecoin during maybe this accumulation phase. Then if the risk were to ever get above 0.5, let's say it were to get between 0.5 and 0.6, then you could sell 30 Litecoin, 1/5 of your stock. If it were to get to say between 0.6 and 0.7, then you would sell another 1/5, and then so on and so forth. And you would keep selling as long as the risk keeps going up. And if you feel like, if the risk reaches, say, some peak up here and you haven't sold everything, then you either maybe hold on to your Litecoin and hope that it comes back up, or potentially you sell it on the way down and just exit the market until we re-enter these lower buy regions over here. But one way by setting it up incrementally like this is that you can take advantage and take profits when you are when you are up significantly, but you also retain a significant amount of your position in case the price and thus the risk keep going up. You could also dynamically dollar cost average your sells, where maybe you sell 10 Litecoin in this region, 20 over here, 30, 40, and then 50 at the highest region. So this would be a higher risk tolerance, basically. So you're really hoping to sell most of it at the top, but at least down here you're taking some profits. And in the case of the halving, moving into the halving, maybe you would have sold say 10 Litecoin, and then you could have reinvested whatever you sold it for down here, so that whenever we get back above 0.5, you have more Litecoin to start selling again. So this is just one thing to consider, and I know I've exhaustively covered this in my other recent videos, so I apologize if you watch all the videos and you're tired of hearing this strategy, but I just want to make sure that I do reiterate this for anyone who has not been watching the other videos. So check out the other videos if you want to dive in further into some of this stuff. So again, another way you could do it is be more conservative and say maybe you only buy when the risk is below 0.3. And note, we recently did touch into the 0.3 region, but now we're back up to between 0.3 and 0.4. So keep that in mind. I will be publishing updates to the Litecoin chart. I think I've maybe decided on doing a public Litecoin chart every couple months on the risk. But if you want more frequent updates, then check out the Patreon channel. It's just patreon.com/intothecryptoverse. I'll link it in the description below. And if you join that and you want more frequent updates, then you can just request them through that, and I'll try to give you an update as soon as I can. Or I'll just I'll typically at least post at least 1 to 2 updates per week on several different coins. So that is one option. Now, the last thing I just want to show is how this compares to Bitcoin. So again, you can see that Bitcoin has gone through this cycle many times where there's a great time to buy, in say 2011, and then in early 2015, and then in late 2018 were great times to buy for Bitcoin, and then the best times to sell. So one was way back over here in 2011, but then the next peak was in 2013, and then again in 2017. So the point of this is to not say whether or not we know when the next peak will be. Maybe it'll be in 2021 if it's a 4-year cycle. Maybe it'll be in 2022 or 2023 if the cycles are lengthening. But the nice thing about using a risk indicator is that we don't care when it happens. We're just prepared for when it does happen, and when it does happen, we will have determined ahead of time what we'll do, and we're gonna we'll sell various portions of our position in Litecoin and take those profits and not look back. And if the price continues to go up, then we continue to sell more Litecoin. And if the price goes down, then we're happy that we took the profits when we did. So if you guys like this strategy, again, check out the Telegram channel and the Discord channel if you want to talk more about it. And feel free to check out Patreon if you want even more access to this type of content. I think that wraps it up for this video. Until next time, bye.